Okay, guys, we need to talk about letting people wake up gently and being a soft place to land. Now, I'm going to begin this conversation by saying you don't have to do anything that I say. It is your life, your healing. You do what you feel is best to do. But I want to share this perspective as a healer, as someone who has been a professional psychic for 10 years, and I have received guidance from the spirit realm for that decade. So, this perspective that I have is a very informed perspective, and I think it might help as we're sorting through these very complicated feelings about what's going on right now with people who voted for the red team and who are waking up and triggering all kinds of feels in us. Now, because my FYP is very blue, the bulk of what I'm seeing is creators who are mad, a little sassy, very spicy about these people who are waking up now. And it's a lot of clapbacks about, oh, you said you didn't vote for this. This is exactly what you voted for. And like, I've probably made that content myself. Okay. This is not me trying to be the pot painting the kettle black. This is about saying, hey, we're at a new junction right now. And if we're going to move forward with more momentum, more peace, and more speed, we need to adjust our perspective on this. Privately, in our hearts, and in our little, safe social circles, we get to feel whatever we feel about this, okay? I'm not trying to talk you out of your feelings. You get to feel whatever you feel about this. Betrayal, hurt, fury. You get to have all those feelings. Those feelings are valid, especially because that crew seems to be the reason we're in this mess in the first place. So there's this very real feeling of, you're the reason why we're here, and I'm going to punish you for how I feel. But think about what I just said. Punishing someone else for how you feel is not the way. And isn't that kind of what the red team has been doing that's gotten us into this position? Yeah. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at processing a lot of betrayal wounds. And we're looking at all kinds of things from our personal lives, from our past, that are triggered by these people now suddenly starting to wake up. And they're denying responsibility. They're denying accountability. And they're claiming up and down that they didn't know and it's not their fault. And I get how infuriating that is. Whose fault is it then, if not yours? I get that. So in our private circles and with ourselves, we do need to honor these feelings and walk through them and process them and have those feelings. That is a normal, healthy thing we need to do. But what happens too often is that when people are processing things, they spit them onto other people. Remember when I did that video a week or so ago when I said, stop making the government your hope. You're giving them their hope, your hope. And then it makes them responsible for saving you, and it can't be that way. The same is true for healing. When you project your hurt onto someone else and you try to force them to be accountable for it, they're not going to do it. They're not. And so instead of you actually productively healing what you feel, you're trying to force someone else to heal it for you. And that's never going to work. All that does is lead to deeper senses of betrayal. And that's what creates that war energy that Spirit has been warning us about. You cannot project your pain onto someone else and expect that they will heal it. That responsibility falls solely on you. And I know that's hard, especially when we have very intimate betrayal, parents, partners, people very close in our lives who should have cared for us but didn't. And because of their actions and behaviors, it caused us great personal pain. That is a very normal, complex, deep and chaotic human emotion. But culturally, if we are going around projecting that pain onto other people, we're not actually healing it. It feels productive. It feels like I'm going to chase them down and I'm going to make them see. But how often does that work? Ever? No, it doesn't. Because it puts that person on the defensive, whether they were guilty or not. These dynamics never heal wounds. They create further separation. So, from the healer's perspective, we have to take accountability for healing ourselves. It doesn't mean we take all the accountability away from the other person, but we have to realize that the emotional processing is our job. It's our job. We can and must and will heal ourselves. And I do have that free shadow work PDF that can help you. I also have an emotional mastery audio course if you're interested. If you want to really get into the dynamics of emotions, especially those of you who are empaths, this is going to be really helpful. I also have a number of light circles and healing master classes that get into very specific wounds, heart wounding, emotional betrayal, fear, all kinds of things. So check that out if that calls to you. Because once we handle that emotional pain and the residual energy and trauma from all of that pain, then we are freed up enough from that we can move forward in a way that is constructive. And we can actually have conversations with the people that hurt us from a balanced, calm way. Because rather than doing the emotional hot potato, we're saying, hey, that thing you did really sucked. Can we have a conversation about ways you've been behaving that maybe you didn't even know, maybe you were unconscious of, that really hurt me? And let's talk about that, because I bet you don't want to be that person going forward. I bet you want to make change. So let's talk about it. Now, these are the best case scenarios for the people in our lives who are open to those kinds of conversations. Not all of us will be able to have that. But collectively, especially with the discourse here on social media, we can have that discourse because we're just speaking our truth in a non-threatening, in an inviting way. And it allows other people, because we're not accusing them and we're not fighting them and we're not trying to hold them accountable for every single thing. That invites reflection and an openness. And they're not on the defensive. They are coming to the situation with curiosity. Because guys, they don't know they've been lied to. They don't. They're just beginning to wake up to that. And if you've never been indoctrinated into something, you have no idea what it's like. And this is coming from someone who was born and raised Mormon. And I don't know, by the grace of God, by the grace of something, I escaped the actual indoctrination. I never believed it as a child. But I've also seen people I deeply care about. I've seen their process of waking up from the indoctrination and how confusing and how hard it is. And I also see the stuff that slipped in the cracks to me too. The things I didn't know I was taking in simply by being part of that culture. And the work of untangling from the brainwashing, from the indoctrination, is intense. So that's the phase we're going to be moving into as a society. If you say you want a unified society, if you say you want people working for the good, it has to start with you. You cannot be going out there guns blazing, wanting a showdown with every MAGA who's starting to wake up. That's not going to get you anywhere. If you want to heal that pain that you feel, you have to be responsible for doing it, which requires the healing of another wound, which is the people who cared for me didn't care for me. You got to heal all the wounds. It's just going to trigger an avalanche of healing. Okay, I know it's hard. I know. But this is why we do the work. And I'm telling you, actually, I'm not telling you. Y'all in the comments, light it up. What does it feel like when you've done the work of the healing for yourself? How does that free you up? How much more empowered and light and forgiving do you feel when you heal yourself? It is life-changing, period. Now, of course, you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to believe me. I'm just some random on the internet. But this is my perspective, and it's an informed perspective. And I have a decade of work in this field. So I have all of that evidence that it works. So if you want this perspective and you want to give it a try, you are welcome here. If you want to try something else, you do you. This is what I have to offer. So take it or leave it.